Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of the Decentering Men series. So, today I'm going to give you a few more reasons why you should decenter men. Number one, anytime you want to do something that doesn't involve a man, it is seen as selfish or demonic. For example, have you ever noticed how if you are child free by choice, you are selfish? If you don't want marriage, you're a demonic Jezebel. And that actually leads me to point number two, which is that men tend to use a lot of gaslighting tactics to get you to tolerate them. They will try to use the Bible, they'll try to use religion, they'll try to use spirituality, they will try to become your moral police. And these are all just gaslighting tactics to get you to date them, to get you to put up with them, and to get you to be more like seeking their validation. I've noticed that a lot of men, they want women to, for example, date ugly guys in order to prove that she's not shallow. They want her to go 50-50 with a guy in order to prove that she's not a gold digger. They want her to have kids with a guy in order to prove that she makes a good mother. So do you see how gradually a lot of men will use these gaslighting tactics to get you to do things that you initially may not have wanted to do, but you're constantly having to kind of prove yourself to a man? Women will often give up their hopes and dreams to support a man financially, and then 10 years later, with his newfound wealth, that man will use that wealth that you helped him build, and he'll use it to attract a new woman. The average length of a marriage is only 7 to 8 years. This makes me think actually about Megan Good with her marriage to Devon Franklin. Nobody had ever heard of Devon Franklin before he married Megan Good. He was a typical Seventh-day Adventist pastor type of guy, a minister guy. And we all know how some church guys can be some of the most controlling. But while Megan and Devon were married, there were rumors swirling that she didn't fit the image of a pastor's wife due to not being modest enough, that she used to, she was smoking and drinking and stuff at that time, that they were like dating and got together. She went apparently from not being celibate to suddenly being celibate in order to be with him. Also, the acting roles that Megan Good used to do before she was married, they were more risque, but at the time that she was married, she was kind of playing like the less sexy roles. So she's potentially limiting her career at that point, her acting career. There were also rumors that she didn't want kids. So men will shame us for being sexy, they'll shame women for being child free, but then they'll still try to wife us up and then try to change us and get us to submit. And then they want to parade us around and say, hey, look how high value of a man I am because I can attract a Megan Good. Look how high value I am because I can attract a Tia Mori. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys, even though they try to say that like, oh, these women, they're just for the streets, or, we're just hoes, or we're trash, or whatever, men are actually very emotionally codependent. I've noticed that a lot of men, they tend to find their value and their self-esteem and their self-worth based on how attractive their woman is. I mean, that's just facts. A lot of guys will actually make fun of other men who have unattractive wives and girlfriends. Men will make fun of other men who have like quote unquote fat girlfriends or girlfriends who maybe they don't fit the beauty standard. So a lot of men actually place their whole entire value and self-esteem in their relationships with us. I am convinced that men actually need us more than we need them when it comes to relationships. And this is what gives women that female privilege that a lot of men like to complain about. Well, it's because men are so desperate to have a woman in any capacity, whether it is as a sex partner, as a friends with benefits, a baby mama, girlfriend, wife, or whatever. A lot of men are so desperate to the point where it actually does give women the power. But at the same time, the fact that men can be emotionally codependent and, so filled with voids to the point where they need a woman to fill it, that's actually another reason to decenter men, because a lot of men are just seeking after a woman, not because they actually love you as a person, but because they're trying to fill an emotional void within themselves. They're trying to prove, hey, I'm not an incel. Look, I have this beautiful actress on my arm. Hey, I'm not gay. I just got married. You know what I mean? Like, they have these inferiority complexes about different aspects of themselves, and so they will try to seek after a woman in order to raise their own status or hide the fact that they actually have an inferiority complex. Oh, hey, look at me. I attracted a white woman. I'm not inferior for being a black guy. You know what I mean? A lot of men actually date simply based on their inferiority complexes. So notice how a lot of poor men, they tend to want a wealthier woman, or they want a woman with money. A lot of quote unquote unattractive men, they tend to want a woman that's as beautiful as possible. Sometimes men who have inferiority complexes about their race or ethnicity, they may want a woman of a different race or ethnicity in order to soothe their own inferiority complexes. So for a lot of us women, it's not that your guy actually loves you as a person. It's that you are helping to soothe a psychological wound and trauma that that man has. You are helping soothe that mother wound that he has by coming in and acting as his nanny and his new mommy and his assistant and his free therapist and his emotional sounding board. You're filling all of these different voids at once. So I do feel like in a lot of cases when it comes to dating, oftentimes women are used as void fillers. Maybe you are there to fulfill his sexual needs. Maybe you're there to fill his emotional needs. And by the way, that actually leads me into my next point. I believe that a lot of men actually have a dual mating strategy. You know how they try to say that women have dual mating strategies? I'm not even here to argue against that, but I think that men actually do this a lot. They will use one woman to meet their emotional needs, to meet their financial needs, and to serve their domestic needs, while simultaneously using another woman or multiple sex workers to fulfill their sexual needs. Or they will go on Instagram and DM IG models or DM that one hot girl from college, to fulfill their sexual fantasy needs. So I believe that a lot of guys actually do have a dual mating strategy. So if you're a woman who's not into that, I would say definitely be wary. Another reason to decenter men is they are very fickle. If all it takes is a pregnancy or gaining a couple of pounds or a few gray hairs and some wrinkles for my entire marriage to crumble, then why should I hinge my entire life, my future, and my womb upon someone who can leave me at the drop of a hat just because of simple things like that? We all know the shallow nature of most men. A lot of men will say, "Oh, I don't like makeup." Meanwhile, their celebrity crush wears makeup. "Oh, I don't like when girls have plastic surgery." Meanwhile, they're jacking off to sex workers online who have had plastic surgery. "Oh, I don't like women who are child-free, Jezebel-like actresses who are not modest." Meanwhile, the first chance they get to meet an actress, they will be all over her trying to wife her up, hoping to change her. We've seen this happen over and over. Most men are extremely double-minded, so that's a reason that you should decenter them. They'll say one thing and do the complete opposite. Men will shame women for cheating and they'll say, "Oh, that's disgusting if women cheat." Meanwhile, that man who's speaking is a serial cheater himself. So a lot of men are extremely double-minded. Also, there is a lack of emotional intelligence in most men. How many men do you actually know who have actively gone to therapy? I'm talking about men who have done journaling, men who have gone on a spiritual journey of some sort, men who are, and no, I'm not talking about just being some sort of Rastafarian, smoking weed and stuff like that. I'm talking about actually doing the work to overcome your psychological traumas that you've had. How many men do you know who have done that same level of spiritual and emotional work on the same level as a woman? Not very many. You know why? Because lots of men are socialized to be homophobic and they are taught that being emotional or processing emotions are gay and that that's bad or whatever. So for a lot of men, they're not even good at processing their own emotions. So if he can't process his own emotions, if he can't be aware of his own emotions, how is he going to be aware of yours? How is he going to be aware of your children's? If he can't even bring healing to his own heart, if he can't bring healing to his own traumas, how is he going to soothe yours as a woman? How is he going to soothe the traumas of your children? And that leads me to the next point, mother and father wounds. A lot of people talk about how women have, maybe toxic mothers or toxic fathers, but a lot of men have been victims of abuse as well when they were little boys. There are a lot of boys who have suffered from sexual traumas or mental and emotional traumas from their parents. So we've got millions of guys out there running around with mommy issues and daddy issues and then jumping into these relationships with all of these unhealed issues. And instead of solving their own mommy issues, they want to make you their mommy. Or instead of solving their own daddy issues, they themselves want to repeat the generational curses that they've seen played out in their own families. So I just think those are just a few more reasons that you should decenter men. What do you ladies think? Let's get the discussion started in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.